Welcome, learner, to this deep dive into Mr. Ash Mufareh's webinar, Historic Comeback. You flagged this one for us, and we've gone through it all to sort of unpack the key insights for you.
That's right. Our mission here is really to make sense of the discussion, strategic plans, character, upcoming tech.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut, your streamlined guide to the core message, and maybe what's coming next.
Okay, so where do we start? The webinar itself kicked off with quite a warm welcome from the host, acknowledging the community, which seemed important, and the number of questions.
Wow. Yeah, over 2,000. That really stood out to me, too. It says a lot about engagement, doesn't it?
It really does. And right from the start, there was this emphasis on patience, regarding strategic info.
Hold on, we'll get there.
Sure.
Setting expectations, appreciating the community, those felt like key opening notes.
And you mentioned the learner being curious about future business phases. Well, this welcome kind of hinted that the community is definitely eager for those details.
Okay, so let's dig into that a bit. That deliberate welcome. It wasn't just, hi, welcome.
No, it felt more like stage setting, managing expectations, like you said.
By highlighting the engagement, the sheer number of questions, it was almost like saying, look, we hear you, we know you're keen, but this is a process.
A strategic rollout.
Yeah.
Especially relevant given that interest in what's next.
So suggest they're being quite careful about how they release information, maybe.
I think so. It could mean the upcoming shifts are pretty substantial, worth a phased reveal, perhaps. Bring the community along, don't just drop it all at once.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Then the focus shifted, didn't it, towards what Mr. Mufareh called the pillars of success.
Yeah, resilience and character, those came up a lot.
He really hammered home that point about resilience bouncing back and character, especially when things get difficult.
That was powerful, the idea that tough times really show what you're made of.
Right. And interestingly, he framed these not just as personal virtues, but as key to, business longevity.
Exactly. Not just individual strength, but organizational strength. How the company itself weathers storms.
It wasn't just about surviving, but thriving through challenges.
And he also made it clear that success isn't just one big win. It's accumulation, effort over a career.
That idea of sustained effort. That probably resonates with a lot of people, learner navigating their own paths.
Definitely. And he also seemed very focused on the future, didn't he? Less about dwelling on the past.
Yeah, he acknowledged the past is done, but the future. That's where the potential lies. He talked about a transformative phase.
Requiring strategic action. That phrase stood out.
It connects back, doesn't it, to the need for patience mentioned earlier. It implies big changes are being worked on.
Significant preparations needing careful planning before the big reveal? It sounds like more than just a small adjustment.
A fundamental shift, maybe.
Seems like it. Then the conversation took another turn, towards relationships in business.
Moving beyond just the transactional side of things.
Right. He emphasized trust. Trust in leadership specifically, and the value of genuine connections.
As opposed to just, interactions based purely on exchanges or money.
Exactly. He even briefly touched on the SEC case.
Oh, right. How did he frame that?
Just briefly. More like indicating a readiness to move forward, sort of reassuring the community, perhaps.
Trying to build or maintain that trust, maybe. Especially after something like that.
I think so. And he also spoke about transparency, both about products and his own vision.
So this focus on trust, genuine connections. It's a different way of looking at business relationships, isn't it? Not just the bottom line.
It really suggests a philosophy valuing long-term ties, mutual benefit.
Building on that relationship theme, it got even more personal, talking about community and purpose.
Yeah, fostering friendships within the community. That was interesting.
And passion, love for the work. He highlighted a supportive environment within the company.
And he reflected on past financial decisions, too.
How so?
Suggesting the main focus wasn't purely profit. It was more about the community, the purpose, the mission.
So prioritizing the collective well-being over just maximizing returns.
That seemed to be the implication. He expressed a lot of gratitude for the community's support.
And emphasized that, real success shows up in actions, in how people interact.
It really paints a picture of an organization trying to be mission-driven, which, learner, you might find quite insightful.
Then they talked about collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Leveraging individual talents.
Yes, acknowledging that people within the community have skills and maybe want to improve their own online platforms.
So harnessing those individual gifts for collective growth.
Pretty much. He talked about using those talents to create positive change for everyone involved, like a synergy effect.
Interesting model. Creating value together in the digital space.
Then the atmosphere seemed to shift again, with Mr. Sugar Yang contributing. Sounded quite lively.
Yeah, lots of emphasis on community engagement, but also faith, personal growth.
Mr. Yang reflected on this being a historic comeback. That term itself is quite evocative.
It is. And there was a strong undercurrent of faith, prayer, belief in perseverance.
The idea that getting through difficulties leads to success.
And they mentioned community support, too. Prayers, fasting, fostering that sense of solidarity.
It highlights the emotional and maybe even spiritual side of things driving these initiatives. It's not just business strategy.
Definitely a strong communal element there.
Okay, then came a pretty big announcement, it sounds like. A new business plan.
Very big announcement. Mr. Mufareh stressed the need for a completely fresh start.
Detaching entirely from the old platform.
Exactly. A complete detachment to build something new, distinct. He pushed for a ground-up redesign.
Wow. No carrying over past elements at all.
That was the message. Don't bring baggage from the past. Start fresh. That's a bold move.
It really is. It signals a major strategic pivot, a belief that real innovation needs a clean slate.
Moving beyond just tweaking things, yeah. A whole new foundation, free from old constraints.
Which leads us to the final point, the future tech.
Right, they touched on integrating new disruptive technologies. That caught my ear.
Mine too. The focus was on scalability, stability, and crucially, affordability.
But they were a bit cagey on the details, weren't they?
Deliberately so, it seems, to allow for even more innovation, maybe, but they assured people it would be cutting edge.
And cost-effective. That combination is key.
He even hinted these new technologies might challenge existing business models, especially on pricing.
Ooh, okay. That's potentially very disruptive.
And he mentioned unique strategies and tactics planned for 2025, designed to be exciting.
So keeping things under wraps, but definitely building anticipation. That peek into future tech, learner, is probably something you'll find really interesting.
Absolutely. That blend of disruptive with affordable, that's an ambitious goal.
So, learner, wrapping this up, this deep dive into Mr. Mufareh's webinar shows, well, a clear long-term vision.
Yeah, and a really strong emphasis on community, trust, and getting ready for a fresh start with new tech.
The themes that kept coming up: resilience, genuine connections, collective effort. They paint a picture of a business really transforming.
Definitely evolving. And the buzz around the new technologies, the whole new business plan, it certainly raises questions.
Big questions about their future direction, potential disruptions down the line.
We hope this breakdown gave you a clear handle on the key takeaways.
So, thinking about all this, learner, what aspects really stand out most to you? And what other questions or explorations might this spark?